Finding an online NP program is easy. You just do a quick Google search, you'll be flooded with online programs from A to Z in a heartbeat. But there are many things these programs forget to mention, and you wish you found out sooner rather than later. Hi, I'm David. I'm a newly board certified adult and gerontology acute care nurse practitioner. I want to try to shed some light on three major things I wish I had known before enrolling in an online NP program. Number one, tuition or student loans. You might be telling yourself, tuition, really? That's obvious. Tuition fees and other expenses are one of the first few things that a recruiter will discuss with you, but it won't really hit how much of a burden it is in the long run. I started off using federal student loans with an interest rate of 5 or 6%, I think. I was doing my math and I thought I was able to afford it. It was already a red flag when I started relying on my own math. Anyways, I went on my way, got enrolled, and started my first few courses. Fast forward a year later, I received a letter from the government and reminded me I had to pay my debt. So I complied and I opened up my account online. I was in shock of how much it was. Long story short, I accrued close to $3,000 in interest rates in a year. Then it hit me. If this keeps up, my student loans will bury me even after finishing the program. Luckily, I was smart and blessed enough to have an emergency fund and was able to pay off my entire student loan for that year. Furthermore, I buckled down on my expenses and sacrificed future comforts like eating out, movies, and among other things. I ended up paying for my tuition out of pocket. It was painful, and I really had to buckle down on my expenses and sacrifice a few things. But trust me, it was worth it now that I am debt-free. So, if you can, pay your tuition out of pocket. Speaking of sacrifice, let's move on to the second thing I wish I knew. Number two, sacrifice. Once again, you're probably like, really? Everybody knows that. Well, sacrifice comes in many forms. Family, friends, leisure activities, among other things. But there's one thing you might consider sacrificing, choosing to go full-time or part-time. I don't know about you, but when I studied for my program, studying and working full-time at the same was very difficult for me. I started off by going full-time, which meant taking 2 courses per term, and boy, was that difficult. I had to sacrifice hanging out with friends and family, sleep, and I ended up eating out most of the time, which was not very good for my health and my bank account. So I ended up studying part-time, which meant taking only 1 course per term, and ended up extending my program for a full year while working full-time. But I don't regret it at all. I was able to balance school and full-time work because of it. Plus, I was able to see my friends and experience life every now and then. Also, a study showed that NP students who only took 1 course per term were more likely to finish and pass the course compared to students who took 2 courses per term. So, take that as you will. Of course, there are other ways to go about it. You could do it the other way around, by cutting hours at work and being a full-time student. There are many ways to go about it. But one thing is certain, something has to give. It's up to you what you are willing to compromise. The last thing I wish I knew that further extended my program from 4 years to 5 was finding preceptors and hospital affiliations. The last year of my program was both practicum and theory at the same time. The theory or studying part was easy. Finding the preceptor and hospital, well, not so easy. As a matter of fact, 3 other NP students who went through the same school and program that I did ended up prolonging their agony because of this dilemma. If you are working as a nurse, please ask the hospital you work for if they have any affiliation with your school, and if not, ask if they can grant you one. As for me, I was lucky enough that during the first 3 terms, I was able to do my practicum at the hospital that I worked for at that time. However, during my last term, the hospital and my school suddenly cut ties, and I was left to myself to find a replacement. The finish line was so close and yet so far. I searched the internet like a possessed man and asked friends if they knew anybody, but to no avail. I eventually found a website that helped me find a preceptor, but I had to pay close to $3,000 out of pocket. At this point, I was willing to do anything to finish grad school. So I paid their services, but it wasn't smooth sailing either. The first one was embarrassing. I filled out the required forms and communicated with my preceptor and the agency. All was well until I went to the hospital my first day. 2 or 3 hours later, I was called into the admin's office and found out they didn't even know I was coming. and I was kicked out of the premises. That was really embarrassing. Luckily, on my second try, I learned my lesson and made sure all the required documents were in order. It was brutal and expensive, but I was finally able to finish my program. Well, I hope you find this information helpful and don't make the same mistakes that I did. Till next time.